Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the best myth build that you can currently have right now in Wizard101. Now this is just something I use personally. You're more than welcome to copy my exact same setup if that's something you want to do. But this is just what stats I prefer as a player, and if you prefer other stats, you're more than welcome to like switch different gear pieces and prioritize different talents on your pets. There's a lot of variety in endgame, so it just really comes down to personal preference as a player. But this is just the stuff I use and what I'm more acquainted towards. So yeah. But if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Definitely join the Discord down below. If you have any questions regarding any of the setup videos that I'll be posting, you're more than welcome to ask me in the Discord. I'll try my best to respond to YouTube comments, but Discord would be your best bet. So join Discord down below, and I would appreciate that a lot. So let's get into the build. We go over here and we equip the gear setup that I specifically have. Now this gear setup's a little bit different because in my other setups you should be seeing like Filosaur set bonuses and stuff like that, but for my mid setup I actually don't do that. So if we go to our stats, I have 11k HP, I have 237 damage, decent resist, I have 40 accuracy, and I have 55 pierce. So that is interesting to see. And then of course with the other stats, I do hit all the caps and stuff like that. So there's that. Now, what do I use on my setup? I do use Dream Reaver Hood. Now for the sockets, I have to preface this in every video. You do not have to have the same exact sockets. I use specific ones if I'm testing stuff, but for the shield socket, you can pin to whatever, right? If you want to have extra resist to a certain school, go for it. If you want to have like critical block, you can do that as well. This is just personal preference at this bottom portion, so don't fret that like, oh, I don't have these exact pins on me, what am I gonna do, etc. Like, no, don't. Honestly, I want you to please not to worry about the sockets on my piece of gear, because it will honestly confuse you a lot of why do I have certain things. It's because I always test stuff on the side, so don't worry too much about this stuff. But main thing is that you need to go get the Dream Reaver Hood. You can go farm that from Malice. Malice has been out for such a long time now, so kind of hope that you have Reaver gear at this point. If you guys haven't, definitely go farm it. I've posted plenty of guides on the channel as well, so you shouldn't be too lost, especially. So there's that. And then the robe, I use the Demonic robe. You get this from the Polaris raid, so if you haven't done the Polaris raid, definitely go farm it. But if you are a person that doesn't want to do the Polaris raid and you still have the Nullity robe from the Void raid, you can definitely use that. The stats on it are still decent. Now if you don't have the Demonic robe and you don't have the Nullity robe, what other options do I have? So the thing is, if you do switch your Demonic robe for certain classes or certain schools, I mean, you don't have enough pips. So for example, if we check right here, this still has a decent stat stick, but if I do switch over to it, I lose 1% pip. Now what happens is when I do lose that 1% pip, is if you check, I had 100% pips, so that would drop me down to 99% power pips. So to make up for that, if you want to, you can rock a power pip mount, the Sinbad one, of course. I think there's like another mount that gives like power pips as well, so you can do that if you really want to, if you still want to use the Reaver robe. But your other best option is if you go to the Library Gauntlet. It has a really good stat stick robe, and honestly highly recommend that if you don't want to do raids and stuff like that and you want to like farm something a little bit better. Go farm the Library Gauntlet and go farm all the robes. The robes are like the best option if you don't want to do raids, and they're pretty solid stat stick overall, so that would be your best bet. And then when it comes to the sockets, like I said, use whatever you like. But for the power pins, I do want to specify it would be nice if you have balance. It would be nice if you have death. Those are like the best ones to go for. Death because you can have extra accuracy for your feints and extra accuracy for if you do balance, you can go extra accuracy for your buffs, like your Spirit Blades, your Spirit Trap, etc. The reason why I put those on, I know these are 100% spells, but if you do have a mantle on you, you have a higher chance of not fizzling. It's just an extra safety net, because there's not realistically anything else I would put for like the power pins. So best bet is just putting on accuracy for those two schools. But if we go back to the piece of gear, like I said, use whatever sockets you want. At the end of the day, it's just personal preference. But the robe, I personally use Daemonic robe. If you don't have that nullity, third best option is go farm the library gauntlet. And then after all that, if you don't want to do any of that, just use Reaver robe and use a power pit mount. Or you can sacrifice a you can honestly use a deck that gives you a triangle socket, and you can just put on pips too, but you'll lose damage and pierce by doing that. So those are the best options I'd like recommend, at least. So Daemonic is what I use. Boots, we have Reaver, of course, really good stat stick overall. Honestly, it's just, you just need this. there's no other like and if or buts. Just go farm this, go farm Malice, etc. And yeah, and like I said with the sockets, use whatever you like. Balance and death would be ideal, but you don't have to. And sometimes I do have fire socket right here, and that's mainly because I do Scald Incendiate on like basically with all my classes, and just I use the Incendiate hat, and just to have the extra accuracy. It's easier if I'm just like farming stuff for like specific schools and stuff, and just trying to quest and whatnot. So you can use fire accuracy too if you want, but honestly, balance and death just for like the regular people who don't do Scald Incendiate stuff. So there's that. And then we get to the wand. I personally use Shababa wand. Now if we quickly go over here to bingo, which I've talked about in my other videos, I don't know what order these videos are coming out, but in the other videos I talk about it the same thing. Is if we go over here to the myth one, you can see that it's like a slight different in stats. It's nothing like super duper crazy. If you look right here, you can see that I do gain extra shads, and the pierce is still the exact same. It's just split up between universal and school, so if you add those up, you still hit 10 pierce, and the damage is still the same. So realistically, the only reason I'm using this is because the item card on it, and then the shad rating, of course. So if you don't really care about all that stuff, you can really just use the Reaver boomerang. World's not going to end. It's just I prefer the sun trap, of course, and the item cards on here are just realistically better. So there's that. If you don't want to go farm for the Shababa wand, or you can open packs from the fairy pack, but honestly I wouldn't recommend it since test realm's around the corner, so we don't know what gear is coming out in test realm, if there is gear, of course, but we're still kind of just waiting on that. So I would honestly hold off on opening packs. I would hold off on farming stuff. Just use the Reaver wand and call it a day. Now for the tier socket, I do have health, but what I would honestly recommend is, since you have access to so many tier sockets now, what I would go is go to the vendor and go to tier jewels, put on a faint jewel, get yourself an item card. You can get item cards for other schools as well, or not other schools, or other spells. So if you want like a myth blade, you can do that. If you want pierce, but honestly the best ones I would recommend is at least putting on like at least 2 of your tier sockets, is putting 1 sharpened blade and 1 potent trap. It's really good for stackability purposes. It's really good for farming as well. Just overall really good item cards. I just personally don't have them socketed on this current build, but I do have extra themes and rings and amulets in my vaults, and I sometimes swap to those. But for the casual player, I would highly recommend that you put on at least 1 tier socket that gives you a potent trap and 1 tier socket that gives you a sharpened blade. Really good item cards, and I'm very thankful that they added something like that. It just makes stuff easier. So there's that. So yeah, Shababa wand number 1, and then like open fairy pack. And if you don't want to do any of those, you can just use Reaver wand and call it a day. A theme, we are using the Reaver knife. I personally have health socketed on, and I do have like a 155 health opal. You don't have to farm it. Like I said, just do the jewel thing. And of course, if you do really want to have just some health, you can go over here to Lucky. Oops, I pressed C. But Lucky does sell some 145 health jewels. So it's not 155, but honestly, farming the 155s are just not fun. Don't recommend it. I'd rather just have someone that's a casual player. Just go to Lucky, go get your 145 and just call it a day, and make it easier. So you can do that. And then I do have damage specifically socket on here. The sockets you can put like in any order. It doesn't like, if I have 2, just make sure you have like the correct amount of sockets of what type. So if I have like 3 pierce jewels and 3 damage jewels, make sure you have that. It doesn't have to be on specific pieces. That's just how I organize my gear. So put some damage jewels on here, and you put some health, or Pwn Trap, or a Sharpen Blade. So there's that. Amulet, I have the Hunhow amulet. Now you don't have to use this if you don't want to. I use it because I prefer the extra stats that you get on here. So if we go to bingo, we go to over here, and we compare it to right here, the Dream Reaver amulet, you can see that I gain extra 2 resist. That's why I kind of like that. Just personal preference. Now if you don't mind losing the 2 resist, you can definitely get yourself this for the Myth Blade and the Myth Shield, but I like the Hunhow one because of the Sun Trap. Now if you really want the Myth Blade, like I said, there is tier jewels, so you can just sock it on the Myth Blade, and then you have a Myth Blade, you have a Sun Trap, everything like that. So if you want to, you can do that, but I personally use the Hunhow amulet. If you don't want to do the Azteca raid and farm this, you can open the Florimancer pack. Just keep in mind with the Florimancer pack, it is a Halloween pack, so after like Halloween or like any type of Halloween event that's going on, and if that pack is not out, that means you can't open packs for this. So that's the only like bad thing about it. But you can use Hunhow, you can use Shabalba, so you can go use the Shabalba amulets too if you want. It's just going to be a little bit stat differences, a little bit different item cards. It still proves the margin of what I'm trying to prove. But you can use any of those, you can use a Reaver. But at the end of the day, most casual players just honestly grab the Reaver amulet from the vendor or go farm it and call it a day. I have plenty of guides on the channel of like where to farm stuff, so you have a couple different options. But yeah, I use Hunhow, it's just personal preference. And then of course you do have the damage and the accuracy, socking it on soul setup. And then the ring, we do use the Fable ring. Definitely most of the setup is Reaver, is just swapping out niche things to personal preference. But yeah, put on some health on it and put on some pierce, and you got that setup done. And then the pet. Now you do not have to have this on a Snappy Frilosaur. I had this for future proofing personally. Like if gear comes out and I do want to swap out certain things, I need the Fossil Hunter set, I can easily equip it without any issue. Now with the other setups on my other class or schools, I mean, most of the time I'm using a set bonus mount to get extra damage. But for me, when I have the set bonus mount on, I don't really get that much damage. Now for that reason, I specifically chose a Pierce mount so I get extra Pierce, because I end up on 55 Pierce. With my damage being so high, like there's no reason for me to put on extra damage, because I'm near the damage cap. I'm getting to the curve point where it's just like it's dropping off slowly and surely. So that's why I rather just have the 2 extra % Pierce. And another option is, like I said, if you don't have the Demonic Robe and you're gonna just use, if you really just want to use Reaver Robe, you can switch your mount to the Pip one. That's like another option as well. So you have a couple options there, but I prefer the Clockwork Courser on my Myth. Just overall, it's just better as a whole. And then yeah, the pet I use, it's just triple damage, double pierce. If you really don't mind losing the 6% pierce, just keep in mind with this setup, if I lose the 6% pierce, I jump down to 49. Now if you don't mind jumping down to 49, you can do that, and you can give yourself an extra like 10 resist or 15 resist. So that is an option too. If you want the extra resist instead of the pierce, you're more than welcome to do that. But just, I prefer the triple damage talents with the double pierce. It's what I've been using for like in the past like couple months, and honestly I enjoy it better than the resist, because I feel like 50 resist is fine. I don't think I need more than that, but I feel like if you are soloing, I guess I can understand of why you would want the double resist. It's not like the end of the world. It's just an overall like a really good pet if you have double resist and triple damage. Yeah. But if you aren't using the set bonus, if you don't, this is just like I said, personal preference. I have it on the Frilosaur for future briefing if I need to like use the set bonus. But if you don't have this mount at all and you don't have the set bonus, put on any pet that gives like a blade. Like there's the Blimp Pal that gives like 2 myth blades. There's like the Gulcher that gives you a blade and a mass trap, which is really good because it's very good for stackability purposes. There's like another pet that gives you a Spirit Blade and a Myth Blade. There's the Griffin that gives you a blade and a feint. And then of course there's like the Decathlon hamsters that give you a blade and a sharpened blade. So Any of those that I said you can use and put these stats on them. Or just if there's another pet that has a blade that I just didn't mention, because there's plenty of pets in this game, just anything along those lines works. But like I said, I have it on a snappy sword just for feature briefing. If set bonuses still become useful in certain classes, I at least want to have it on a sword to be prepared, because I don't need the item cards right now personally. I'm kind of content with everything I have. Like, I have 3 sun traps, and like it's just like I don't always need them. It's very niche, so yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about if it's on a snappy sword or not. You just want these stats, and then like I said, triple damage, you can do that, and like double resist. You're completely fine. I just prefer the pierce. And then yeah, with the clockwork courser as well for the 2 extra universal pierce. And then the deck, I do use Shabalba deck, but you do not have to use a Shabalba deck. I know like there's a lot of raid pieces, but that's why I wanted to post like the best setup, because it's just outright better. But if you look over here, the Shabalba deck gives you 40 extra health, but you do gain extra block with the Reaver deck. So if you don't mind losing the extra health, just use Reaver, and honestly save yourself some time so you don't farm the raid for some extra decks that give you 40 extra health. It's just, I've done the Aztec raid so much, I've done the Polaris raid so much, and I'm gonna have gear. It's just bound to happen. So I don't expect all players to have this deck. And there's the other decks that you can use. I think there's like the Mushu deck from the Gold Key boss, or there's the Avalon one. You can use those decks. You can open packs if you really care, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to open packs for the Shabalba deck, at least, if you don't want to go do raids to farm this, the best alternative, which is literally the same thing, it's just a different name, and you can just open the Fairymancer pack, and that will have like the Shabalba gear equivalent. It's just renamed to the fairy stuff, so keep that in mind as well. But that's the basic gist of the setup. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Like I said, you guys are entitled to have your own opinion on like the setup, and you know, if you guys prefer certain stuff, that is completely fine. But this is just honestly what I really prefer, right? I prefer aiming around a good amount of pierce and a good amount of damage, and then the rest I'll just figure out. And this is just what I've been doing for the past like couple months, and I have no issues. So if you are really having issues, then sure, you can switch out these pierce talents for resist, and you'll be more tankier in fights. You'll gain like another 15 resist, so you wouldn't have to worry about dying in fights as a whole. Of course, unless there's like, it's like a cheating boss and like it's mad difficult, but for the most part, questing isn't too big of an issue. But if you really care about the max build currently, this is what you want to aim for. And yeah, so if you have any questions of where to farm stuff or anything like that, you guys can let me know in the comments down below. But personally, I would recommend that you join the Discord and ask me questions in there. It'll be more better, be more efficient, and I'll be able to respond even quicker. And I can help you guys in any type of way with their gear setups. So there's that. But hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Join Discord like I stated earlier, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.